Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 8. Another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. First one is France, and they have introduced what they call the Repairability Index. So this is a law, and certain devices, things like laptops and mobile phones sold in France now need to come with this rating. So very similar to the energy ratings you see on fridges and freezers and TVs, that sort of thing. So this lets you as a consumer know how repairable your device is. So this is software. How easy is it to update the software, for instance? Can it be updated? Hardware and also firmware as well. So if you drop your phone, can you repair the screen yourself, or can you take it to a high street store, or does it have to go to the manufacturer, or is it unrepairable? So it gives you just a sense whether it's going to end up in landfill or not in the next couple of years. So this is on top of the right to repair movement, and thoroughly approve of this. But you've got people like Apple at the moment with their latest iPhones who they are stepping the opposite way. So the right or the ability for you to repair it yourself is what Apple are going against at the moment. So not great. Hopefully this will start to turn the tide for good. Emoji news. So there will be a bunch of new emojis this year. There weren't any last year because the Unicode Foundation essentially didn't okay them because of COVID, etc. However, those are coming this year. There are some interesting ones. So each device or each platform renders them slightly differently, as you may see. And even on the screen here, you can see two different styles. Apple, for instance, when they render the syringe, it used to be with blood in it and a drop of blood. Now, because of vaccinations and COVID, actually the syringe is a far more useful emoji, but it's not relevant. Now it's got blood in it, so they're actually taking the blood out. So it's interesting how COVID has changed how we render some of the emojis. However, 200 new ones this year is kind of interesting. Secondly, what's interesting about that is each year they do, there is a report about the most popular emojis, and the face with tears of joy is always the most popular. We use it all the time. However, it's waning. It's not cool anymore is the big news. It's almost going to be overtaken. So you've got platforms like TikTok have seen the rise of the dying laughing skull, for instance, or rolling on the floor laughing emoji. So pretty much this is just a public announcement that if you're still using the face with tears of joy emoji, then you're probably going to be seen as not cool anytime soon. But there you go. Apparently, I'm just reporting the news. It's up to you. Facebook, and this is definitely the biggest news of the week. So this is Facebook in Australia specifically. And of course, you probably have seen this news, but just for completeness, reporting it here. So this is Facebook in Australia have removed news from their feeds. So this also means that if you are a news outlet in Australia, you've had pretty much all your content removed. If you're a normal person, you've just seen that content removed from your feeds. The reason for this is there is now a law which was backed by the media outlets and basically journalism to say, okay, we put a lot of work and money into this journalism. We can't just have somebody like Facebook stealing it and using it on their platform to get more advertising revenue, more eyeballs, because we kind of want that. So there was a deadline for this. Google made the deal. They made a high-up deal. This meant that they kind of sprinkled money at this, and it went away. Facebook said, no, we're not going to do that. Actually, we'll abide by the law. We don't want to get sued, so we're going to remove the news. And that's pretty much what happened. Lots of people got caught in the mid-ground of this. So you've got people like charities and also government bodies. So for instance, like fire service and also sort of domestic help lines and things like that all got their news taken down as well, which was bad. That's all coming back up. So it was a bit messy. But then when you look at what really is going on behind this, it's kind of old media, hasn't quite got how to interface correctly with big tech. Another really good example was on Twitch this week, where basically when there was a streaming event and Metallica was streaming, and if anybody was on Twitch and they were re-streaming that, then they would actually get a copyright takedown because they're not allowed to broadcast Metallica without paying a license. So basically Twitch just dubbed it with 8-bit tinkly sort of folk music. And what was really interesting, it was the music industry and the Millennium Copyright Act that put this in place, and it's now created this really weird thing that if you were re-streaming Metallica through basically a licensed concert, you would start getting copyright strikes against you. So people were turning off all the volume, and Twitch said, look, we'll automatically redub it live, and it was just a nonsense because you got Metallica with 8-bit computer music over the top of it. So it's another good example of kind of old media not quite knowing how to interface with big tech and vice versa, and the monopoly that big tech has over news. One could also argue, okay, newspapers, where do you get your revenue from these days? And they'll say advertising. You'll probably say, well, where do you get the traffic from? They'll say, well, we get it referred from big sites like Google and Facebook. You go, okay, so you need Facebook. So it's not as simple as it seems, and it's a bit of a standoff. And quite frankly, let's see who blinks first. If the world stands behind this and every country says you need to pay for journalism, then that's a really weird place to be. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, interesting. I love this video. So this is Stuff Made Here. It's a YouTube channel, which I absolutely love. And this is Shane Whiten, who makes like incredibly tricky but brilliantly simple things at the same time. So saw this video. It's just absolutely amazing. If you love this sort of stuff, he solves so many problems to try and get this to work. It's a pool cue that makes you play perfect shots. So it uses a camera above to record the table, and I won't spoil some of the ins and outs of how that works, so watch the video. But basically it looks at the table, calculates all the ball positions, it then projects it onto the table, shows you where to put the cue, and then the cue actually has a robotic kind of little tip on it that will automatically compensate for any movement that you do, go in the right angle, the right spin. It is marvelous. So if you're into that sort of thing, sort of the maker community, then definitely subscribe to Stuff Made Here. His channel is amazing. Twitter Space rolls out, so this is really just a hygiene update, really. So it's already been out for a while, but it's been on a very, very limited beta, so not many people have actually seen it, but it's essentially Clubhouse. Yeah, so Clubhouse is having its good and its bad PR, really. The bad PR basically said, look, it's just a lot of men talking over people on a public platform. And other people are saying it's brilliant because it now is giving people access to amazing people you would never see before. So it's not without its issues, basically. Twitter are really just matching almost one for one. So really, this is clearly a thing that's going to happen. It's going to be a competitive scene pretty soon. Clubhouse are really the only one at the moment, but Twitter Spaces is going to roll out. Is pretty much the same. But if you are a conference organizer or a media buyer or a sponsor of people or have topics to talk about, then this is one you should be looking at because it will be a huge platform and Twitter actually get it done. Amazon Build It. So again, this is kind of the next step onto an existing platform they've been doing. They've had this platform or this concept called Day One Editions that launched about 2 years ago. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And Day One Editions are, let's get stuff out quickly, see how it works, see if you like it, and if it really works, it's basically prototyping. Let's give you the first edition, the Day One Edition. Now Build It is a way of really giving you a chance to choose which one they should build next. So at the moment they've got a smart cuckoo clock, they've got a nutritional scale, and they've got a sticky note printer. So if you would like to pre-order them, it's a little bit like Kickstarter. So you put your money down, whichever one wins, that's the one you get. If you actually didn't choose for the other ones, or the other ones lose, you don't get to buy those anyway because it's not going to get made. Yeah, so it's really interesting how where they're going with this. They're starting to make their own products, but giving you a chance to say which one they do. Check it out. Love this. Please stop drawing icebergs wrong. This was just a Twitter thread I happened to cross. So this is by Megan Thompson Munson. He was a geologist, a glaciologist, sorry, and a climate change scientist. He's basically just having a bit of a rant about, look, can you stop drawing icebergs wrong? So icebergs usually are depicted as a little bit at the top and then lots underneath. And she's saying they don't float like that. They fall over and they're 3D and they roll. And people saying, well, that never happens. You go, there's videos from a couple of weeks ago with people trying to climb up an iceberg that rolls over, for instance. So that then spiraled into Joshua Talbera creating this physics demo, which you can go and visit. You basically draw your own iceberg and it shows you actually how it would float, which I think is just beautiful. If you're ever trapped in a lift with me for long enough, I will rant at you about the fact that we've all been taught how rainbows work wrong. I was talking to my friend Kaz today and did exactly the same thing, so I apologise for that, Kaz. But there are these big scientific things that the media keep getting wrong. or artists keep getting wrong. So yeah, go and have a play, make your own icebergs. Of course, real icebergs are in 3D and they'd work differently, but it gives you a good clue. And there we go. So thank you very much. Hopefully that was useful, and I will see you next week.